Here's another question. It's because I don't understand this shit, okay? It does not make sense to me. This question is on jurisdiction, okay, here in the United States, and each and every one of these individual little subset communities that think they're actually part of the whole when they all operate separately. Okay, so I'm going to use myself as an example. So in 2015, when I had flooding in my basement, I was forced to live without running water, electricity, and then later on heat. It was November 2015. Um, I was going through some PTSD as it relates to the military. And I had no support system whatsoever. Not from my family, not from my local community, not from the VA, nobody. So I went through that whole shit all by myself. But being forced to live and forced to shut down my business that I had created really wreaked havoc on me. So, anyways, I was mental hygiene arrested. Not because I wasn't taking a shower, not because I was, you know, consuming large quantities of alcohol and street drugs, not because I was putting myself out there, um, selling myself in rings of prostitution, not for any other reason other than they wanted to have fun. And I really do believe that, that's how they provide college students with human experiments off the street. And well, I'm pretty sure, yeah, I'm absolutely positive my sisters ordered it up because that's what the cops said. Well, your sister wants you to be mental hygiene arrested. She was living in Maine, still is. I'm down here in New York, and she doesn't know what the fuck's going on, okay? But they did it anyways. So crossing the state lines, that's my question. Running up complaints, crossing state lines, where is the jurisdictional line, okay? Because if I do not have daily, weekly, monthly, or any type of interaction with an individual, how is it that they're allowed to call shots like that? Cross state lines, okay? So that's a jurisdictional question. Here's the other one. They transported me from the village of Mount Morris, which encompasses the whole village is like a 2 by 2 mile radius, okay? So there was no handoff. The village police officer transported me beyond village lines, through town lines, outside of county lines, without my consent, all the way into another county. And there was no handoff, okay? That's my other question. How were they permitted if their pay is based on their position, which is fixed to a location? How are they allowed to cross jurisdictional lines transporting people as they do and get away with it? Now, what spawned all this? I was reading the case involving the Cherokee Nation and the state of Georgia last night. And you see, when the Crumlins came through on the Eastern Shore boards with their trumpets and their horns saying, the British are coming. What they really meant by that was there was boatloads of people that kind of defected from places close to England, loaded them all up on boats and was headed for another shoreline. And so these people came over, you know, blowing their horns saying, you know, there's hundreds and hundreds of people coming. And how do you plan to manage these people? And they interface with the Iroquois. Iroquois. Pronounce it correctly or don't say it at all. Iroquois. And so the Iroquois said, well, who permitted them to leave their land? Our people are not permitted off our land unless they're approved to go off our land. And if they're approved to go off this land, there has to be a valid reason. Okay? Like if somebody stole a person from our land, we would have somebody go and get that person that was stolen from this land. So who authorized them off that land? And so in asking those questions, the horn blowers, the trumpeters, British are coming, tried to explain to the Iroquois that these people operate under a totally different system than what they operate under. And so they tried to outline the structure of the law, which is, you know, pretty much England's structure. And so the Iroquois, like, we don't manage our people like that. And people are not, if you don't have permission, you're not authorized, and you're not approved to do things, then you just don't do them here. And for the most part, they don't have issues here like what's coming forth. And so the horn blowers, the trumpeters, said, well, you need to try to explain to these people when they get here the difference between your laws and their laws. Otherwise, you know, bad things are going to happen. So they no more than understood, the Iroquois no more than understood the level of their law, which was the federal law, because that's handed from England, not made up here in the United States. And so they no more than put on paper to try to have it ready for them to have a better understanding of what they're about to enter. They put the 3 words down: full-blooded Indian. Because if you did not carry the right type, meaning the oldest blood, in the right quantities, with all knowledge attached, you did not, you know, your movement on this land was not permitted. And they would test you along the way. So these people came here and they no more than tried to explain that, you know, the difference between what you're not authorized here, we're not giving you permission to come here, and you might have your country's consent to come here, but we're not going to consent to this shit. And then, you know, the number of people, they already had it programmed well in advance. They were going to just slaughter all these people, and they did. So going back to the Cherokee, the ruling was by the state of Georgia is that they didn't have jurisdiction over the Cherokee. And the reason why, they say, is because the Cherokee were neither a foreign nation, meaning their attachment, the court's attachment, is still over in England, okay? Nor were they covered under the rights afforded to all people for the pursuit of happiness, liberties, and all that shit under Article 3 of the Constitution. So therefore, they couldn't hear the case. And so, if you kill off as they did the Iroquois. Not in its entirety, but pretty much so. The structure that was once in place. If you kill off through the hands of genocide the known structure of the land, and then you section off people as they did to prohibit the rights of some while fashioning the rights of others in glamorous ways. Who's to say? Who's to say? That shit just won't happen again. Under a different set of hands. History has a way of repeating itself. But if you want some homework on jurisdiction and you want to raise up the reality of jurisdiction, because jurisdiction really is based on job. It's supposed to be. That's how things stay intact and not out of control. And so if your job and your title says that you are not supposed to go beyond the boundaries of a 2-mile by 2-mile radius, and you step off that boundary, you should be subject to some type of disciplinary action, if not losing your job. But that stuff doesn't happen here in the United States. So really, where are those jurisdictional lines? They're not clear, not clear at all, because they extend everywhere, and they're allowed to do these things. So how does control fit into that? It can't. There's no control. And if there's no control, there's no oversight. If there's no control and there's no oversight, there's no trust. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Jurisdiction. What is the true jurisdiction of the United States of America? We don't know this stuff, because I don't think there is any.